Hi, listeners. This is From Ideology to Unity, and I'm here with Larry and Enelia from the podcast Driving to the Res. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Thank you for inviting us.
We're honored to be your first guest.
Second, he recorded somebody else before us.
Oh my.
I know, right? Come on, dude.
Well,
we were supposed to be your first, and now we're not. I mean,
Well,
who
it's a
remembers
hard choice.
second?
are we silver? We're
Yeah,
bronze.
we're silver.
I guess we're bronze team.
Nobody remembers second, man. Nobody remembers silver.
Oh, well, the value of these things is subjective, I guess. So did I get your name right? Is it Enelia?
Enelia.
Yeah.
Enelia. Yeah. Thank you for asking. A lot of people don't.
So, Larry, you
Yeah.
So did you? It says here that you're. Was it from a Maca tribal commercial fisherman? I'm not sure what you're saying there, but
Macaw is the name of my tribe. I'm a member of the Macaw tribe.
He's Native American.
hi.
I'm a commercial fisherman.
Okay. Oh. That's interesting. So which tribe are they? Where are they from?
Well,
They're
they're
the Macaw tribe.
the Macaw tribe,
They're
and
Macaw tribe.
our land that we have right now is centered on the northwest tip of Washington. The very northwest tip, right at the ocean.
Okay,
The land that the tribe worked with was just off the British Columbia, Victoria, Vancouver Island. From there down to this northwest tip of Washington State. That was our traditional territory.
Yeah.
Since then, they have some big governments coming in, United States and Canada. And so they have new lines, but basically the relations move from the middle of Vancouver Island down to the northwest tip of Washington. And that's our area. And most of our land is the ocean.
Okay.
This is an ocean.
We're ocean tribe.
Yeah, I actually visited Seattle once and I saw the museum, and they showed canoes that they use a lot.
Yep, that's exactly the
right type of Indian.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're about 4 hours west of Seattle.
Yeah.
Whereas you, Enelia, you're from Chile originally, right?
That's right. Yes, I was born in Chile, and part Mapuche, which is the Native American. One of the Native American. It's like a general name. There's lots and lots of different tribes that belong to the Mapuche people.
Right.
And I grew up in England, in Nottingham.
So from what I hear, you were around during the coup that when Pinochet came to power.
In Chile, yes, I was, yeah.
So how did you end up explain your journey then to here.
It's an interesting journey, actually.
To the res.
Sorry.
To the res, the journey to the res.
Oh my God.
From Chile to the res.
That's a long journey.
From Chile to the res. She's a res girl from way back.
Yeah. So basically, after the coup, my parents were politicians and they were part of the government, the agenda government. In 1973, there was a coup by the right-wing dictator Pinochet. And my parents got taken to concentration camps, tortured terribly, and all this nasty stuff happened.
Incidentally, can you add in what day that was?
September 11th, yes. A very, very significant,
day.
Mystical date that they keep using over and over to anchor the negativity on the planet. Anyways, moving forward, we went to Argentina first, and then we got refugee status in the UK. First, we went to live in Scotland in a little town called Falkirk, and then we moved to Nottingham, where I grew up, basically. And then I moved to Ireland, and then I moved to Spain. I moved back to Chile for a bit, and then I went back to England, and then I moved to the United States, and eventually ended up here with Larry at the res.
Well, you've been moving around a lot.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
It was interesting, too, because she'd seen that she was going to be following this red car through a forest and pass into a gated community.
Yeah. It didn't say
Sort of
gated
gated,
community.
not gated
It was like
community, but gate
a
into
gate.
a new land,
Yes,
something like that.
into Larry's land.
Yeah, and at that time we didn't have a gate,
No, there was no gate at the Reds.
but I did have a red car,
He did have a red car.
but it was a truck.
Yes.
Now we have a gate.
Yes.
So
There's a gate.
you can see the future then.
Yes, I would say so.
Sometimes I remember the future.
That's how we
Sometimes I remember the future. A lot of people can.
I like
you can
that.
too. Anybody anybody can do it. It's just like one of those muscles you've never used, so they atrophy. But you can start what's it called? Exercising it and reestablishing it.
Is that
remember what you have for breakfast tomorrow?
is that linked to the Akashic records?
No, well, kind of in a way. The Akashic records are like the data bank of the human collective, if you think of it that way. So you get into, if you know computers, you can get into the data banks and gather a lot of information from there. And the Akashic records, that's how I explain them. They're like the data bank of the human collective. And what is the human collective? Everybody who belongs to it, right? So anybody who goes into the Akashic records will have their own personal experience of it because they're tapping into the data bank of the human collective through their own viewpoint.
So if anyone were to watch this, you aren't so clued into this, well, how would you describe it? Is it like a sort of gestalt consciousness or something, like some sort of non-local connection between our minds or something?
No, not really. It's almost like an expansion of your personal awareness.
Right. So, think of it. Yeah, your very, very big thing connects into a little tiny thing to have a little experience that you're having.
Yes.
It's not a little experience, but an experience. But you necessarily condensed yourself to a small speck of awareness. So it's essentially just becoming more of yourself, is it including more of your memory, more of your
essence of who you are,
what you are. Who you are.
Right. That makes sense.
So you know the law of one. So it would be the one, right? The oneness consciousness.
Yeah. That is you. You just become more aware of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yourself is a little less linear than you might be right now.
Right. Right.
So, Brian, you're running for mayor. Are you doing that as an independent?
Well, I'm not Brian.
Not Brian.
Brian's running for mayor of London, remember?
Yeah. Remember your teacher, Brian?
Brian Rose.
Wow, that was really smart of me. And this is on recording as well. This is fantastic.
Okay, you know.
What a great start.
That's how we recover that we remember.
Hey, listeners, I'm really smart. I'm looking at the list.
I'm thinking of putting my bid as well.
For Mayor of London?
I think I'm going to change my name. The Mayor of London.
Wow, that was dense. Wow.
I think that is a common experience of getting expanded a bit.
Yes.
Whenever you engage with Anelia at a level of focus and attention, your expansion begins to occur. And you just expanded a little bit, so
we all became Brian.
Fairy-brained.
Well, I suppose maybe it's just a symptom, well, the law of one, really. I guess I'm Brian.
There you go.
I'm running for mayor.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly. There you go.
How's your bid going? Yeah, you shouldn't.
Let me tell you one thing, Brian. You should not run for anything to do with politics. Just step out of it. You bit the bait and it's got a hook in it. It's taking you away from your mission in life. It's not going to help you. It's just candy and seduction pulling you in, and you'll do nothing except lower your frequency. How about that, Brian? What do you think? Because you're Brian right now. We're oneness, right?
Yeah.
What do you think,
this actually went in an interesting direction. I'm glad I made that mistake.
Yes, Brian.
I need to take a stand, and it was on my conscience that I should. Oh no, this feels weird. Okay.
You want to take a step off the cliff? Just jump.
All right.
At least
all right.
Just go for it.
Go for it. All the way down to the.
I'm sorry, Brian. Right. Right. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your core goals then? You seem to say here that you want to?
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Come
We're
on.
all three here.
Yeah,
You're
come
Brian, and we're
on.
talking about being running for mayor. So we're
Yeah,
skipping about.
don't try to redirect here, Brian.
Doesn't work
Just
on us, Brian.
answer the question.
Tell me about this.
You know, at
running for
my age,
mayor.
I just feel I want to make a difference.
Well, we're not looking for now. We're looking for Brian's take on it. You're Brian right now,
Yes.
so let's hear it.
Yeah.
What do you say about what we just said?
Oh dear. I've. Oh dear. Can we not do this, please? Ah.
Just pretend for the moment. Here's the best way to go about it. Just pretend for the moment you didn't push publish, because you actually don't have to publish.
Yeah, you don't
can
have
just
to
have a
publish
conversation.
this. Yeah, you can have a conversation and not
And
publish
later,
it. It's
you don't
fine.
have to publish.
Yeah.
It's just a conversation, and we can skip out, skip around, do whatever you feel
Yeah.
like at any time you feel like. You're not beholden to any opinion that you hold for this moment or the next moment. You can
Yeah.
even change your mind.
Totally.
I could just be like, "Hi, listeners. This is from ideology to unity, and whom I am, starting again." I could edit it out or something. I don't know.
It'll be fine.
Right.
It's fine.
So, yeah, somehow it wasn't resonating with me or something. I'm not
Yeah, there's a
experiencing.
bit of there's a
Totally
bit of dissonance
right.
to
Yeah,
it.
there's a dissonance to this. You're
Well,
right.
the dissonance to it is the beast that it is, right?
Yeah.
It's a very tempting beast
Yeah.
to join in, have that power and that ability that you feel you don't have, that somebody else can give you through a process of politics.
I have a question. So, I'm getting into, in a sense, my podcast involves politics. It involves ideology.
Yes.
While I'm trying to help
Ideology.
people out of ideology, it does involve me dealing with it in some sense. Is there a risk that I might be tempted in some sense?
Tempted to join the divide?
Not so much through becoming a politician, but joining the divide just by getting involved with it, the discussion of the political theory.
Yeah. So political theory is a massive intellectual school, right? It has a lot of departments, and it has a lot of viewpoints and methodologies and everything else. So it's a very broad thing to talk about. It's almost like saying, let's talk about trees.
If I talk about trucks, am I going to get stuck in 4x4s only?
Right.
No, you're not going to get stuck in 4x4s
I don't
by
think
talking
so.
about it.
Yeah. And I think that part of talking about it is what gives clarity within ourselves and also others, right? What I would avoid 100% would be to convince individuals of your viewpoint, right? Because they have their viewpoint and you have your viewpoint, and they're different, but they're both right.
They're right for
yes.
Person.
That's something I've realized recently.
Yeah. So from that perspective, trying to figure out who's the best candidate for the next election, that then you are sucked in. You're totally going into it, right? But if you're talking about let's go back to the law of one, and the fact is all of this is a game to divide and conquer, and anybody who joins into it and says, hey, vote for me, is already feeding the beast of us versus them. It's feeding the beast, which is the divide and conquer. It's a very dark game that we don't want people to fall into, right? So will you fall into that? I don't think so.
Is it sort of bait and switch then?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So we've got to consider here, what's the alternative? Or at least let's consider what the problem is, my perspective, which is just subjective perspective here, that people get sucked into fear and judgment. And that means they're not empathizing as much. They're not accepting or understanding people of the other side or other sides so much. And that makes it tribal, division, separation, duality.
Perfect. Yeah.
100%, you got it.
You got it. Totally.
Another thing I've been thinking is that there was a time when the whole nation was under one religion. And there was and despite all the disagreements, there at least was that. I feel like in a secular time, there's not even...
Well, let's go back.
Maybe it's more divided than it used to be.
let's go back to the first point.
First
When
point.
you said the whole nation was under one religion, that's not a true fact.
It's not accurate.
It's not accurate. Because even if you're talking about the nation where you are, right, which might be England, I don't know where are you right now, but I think it's England, right? There was never one religion that ruled them all.
True.
Even when Christianity was trying to dig in and conquer that land, it had Druidism, it had all sorts of different types of local shamanisms that it still exists to this day there. So that never really went away.
Yeah, it's nothing new then.
And then, no, so even the Christianity aspect, which originally was a Catholic, divided, and then you became Protestant and Catholic. And after that, many other branches of Christianity came in, and they're all very radically different to each other. So to make a broad statement saying everybody had the same religion in this nation is not actually accurate. That never was. That never was like that.
You're right.
And still
I
isn't.
could have done better than that. That's true. In fact, this whole game of divide and conquer, it's been done for thousands of years.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
It's what you get at this level
That's
of
really
reality.
Exactly. Yes.
But not always and not forever.
No, not always
True,
and not
true.
forever. Another one that's really fascinating to me, both as a Native American and as part European, because I'm half European, is the fact that we tend to romanticize the shamanic arts or the Native Americans. And also, as a Native American, I've seen many, many other Native Americans or Indians talk about themselves as victims of the white regime, that they brought in the separation of spirit and person, or the Pachamama, the reality separated into we are human and the nation and the whatever is the land and whatever is separate. When in fact, the time of separation happened way before. And by the time Europeans arrived in the Americas, there was already division, separation, enslavement, power over others, and really nasty
war
stuff
and everything
happening.
that
Yes.
Yeah.
all the same.
So this separation happened throughout the world, not
Yeah,
just in
yeah.
Europe, and it wasn't the Europeans that brought it everywhere. Right.
So
They
do you
were
feel-
very good at it. But yeah.
Do you feel
Yeah,
like,
some are better than others.
would you say that the whole, would you say that identity politics is just another form of separation?
What do you mean by identity politics?
Well, I suppose there's different types of identity politics, but this whole idea of some groups are victims and some groups are persecutors.
That's a victim aggressor.
Yes, that's a victim aggressor cycle, which
Yeah.
most people on the planet are subscribing to right now, right? And they really, really like it. One of the fascinating things about the cycle is that when somebody's stuck in it through higher self choices, right? If they, for example, have been playing the victim their entire life, and then they meet up or have a person in their life that refuses to be the aggressor, they immediately become the aggressor and make the other one the victim, because they have to be in the cycle. That's the important part. No matter what role they play, they have to be in the cycle.
I mean, I was on the other side of it in a sense that I was involved in what you could call the culture war online. And I felt that they felt like they were victims, I suppose. And they is an overly general way of putting it.
Yeah, it's a generalization. those to a lot of things, I gotta say.
Okay, so some people felt that they were in a victim group and they had to, and one group still feels the victim. They might get pushy about it or whatever, and the group that doesn't want to be like a persecutor might feel under attack themselves, but then they might go and they attack themselves to deal with what they view as a threat. So the whole thing just cycles back and forth.
Yeah.
It's like Romeo and Juliet, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's easy to become engaged, and
so easy to get engaged.
That's the bait.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bait,
When I first came public in 2010, I had a lot of people interviewing me saying, okay, so you've been accused of X, Y, and Z. What is your response? we want your formal response. And I said, my formal response is that they can think whatever they want. I'm not going to defend myself or spend any type of energy doing that, because it's not, I don't care about it.
Which is very frustrating.
It's frustrating for the other
for everyone
person,
else.
right? And it's like, or another one that was very popular in, I think in Europe, interviews would say, so how will you convince someone who doesn't believe that you came from source that you did? I said, I don't spend any time convincing anybody of anything. People come and listen to my stuff because they resonate with them. They have a remembrance of them, and they follow their own intuition and their knowing to figure out if it's true or not. So I don't have to spend any time convincing anybody. That's not my role here. My role here is to remind them that they're a divine eternal being, and they can make conscious choices and create their reality. Right. Boom.
Boom. That's the crux of it all.
And would that be how you would help people out of potentially being in ideology? You just point to your better way and lead by example. Not better, not better.
Yeah, exactly. That's divisive.
I keep saying these things, don't I?
That's divisive.
Well, you've been raised since a toddler, right? It's not like
divisive,
these
right?
These
better than that,
programs
or
are
more authority than that. No, there's not better. It's different. It's just.
It is.
It is. It just is.
This is yellow. This is orange. Which one's better?
No, it isn't.
Orange is better, obviously.
No, yellow's better.
Orange is bad, didn't you know?
Orange?
No.
Orange has yellow
Lemon,
and red in it.
Yes.
It's more than yellow. It's better.
I prefer apples.
But oranges come in the color orange.
But Trump is orange. That must be bad then.
Right, exactly. You got it.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So are we on people?
The way I've started to look at politics recently is that instead of having like this strict doctrine that we can try to take the good ideas, or not good ideas, but so much. If you take ideas from each of them and build something holistic out of it, but then but in an open-minded way, but perhaps that's a better way of looking at it than there's this ideology that's right and the others are dead or wrong. They're wrong and they're idiots for really believing that, right?
Yeah, really complicated, right? Because there's ideology, which is the ideas, right? And there's execution of the ideology for exerting power over others, which is different.
It is different, yeah. There are other forms of governance that you can govern yourself and your tribe. And there's usually are decentralized, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just very easily find individuals that you can work with. Because what is this all this anyway? It was never about one personality over another personality. Can you wear masks, or should you be made everybody legally, or go to jail if they don't wear them? Can you force people to get vaccinated? Or you should force them. No, don't force them. It's not about that at all. It's none of that. If you vote in, or you run for mayor, right? Mm-hmm. What you're doing is you're giving your sovereignty away to another person to represent you. It's not even a secret. This is what your signature goes in, and you give your sovereignty for somebody else to use. Whether that person wins or loses, that sovereignty has been given away to the system that you sign your name to. And that system now will use your sovereignty and your power to create a reality here on the planet that you may or may not agree with.
Democracy is very occult.
So don't sign it. Don't sign anything, okay? When you spell your name, right?
Yeah.
spell.
You spell your name.
You spell like a spell.
I would just So politics is about energy and vibration, like everything is.
Exactly. It's nothing to do with left, right, communist, socialist, capitalism, Republican, Democrat. It's none about that. It's irrelevant. That's all irrelevant.
That's the narrative.
Nothing to do with it. That's a narrative that sucks people in. It's all mystical, man.
Right. There's another way of looking at it. The Carla Rueckert had this, the author of the channel involved in the Law of One,
right?
The raw material. So she had this metaphor where, in a book she wrote about it, where she described it where normally there's a 3D chessboard, right? Obviously, there's
Mhm.
two sides, and it's black and white. And then
Yeah.
there's the 5-dimensional board, right? And that is you make your moves based on love rather
Mhm.
than based on trying to win, and it's completely different. It changes it
Motivation,
completely, right?
inspiration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if a lot of this division is based on hatred, right? Love can actually, you can. I've heard that if you have a high enough frequency, you're kind of, I wouldn't say immune to it, but less susceptible to that control and that anger and so forth. Would you agree?
In a way, yes. You can, by stepping out of the low frequency stuff, process your fear. The first thing, I have a fear processing exercise, and that's the one that's been downloaded millions and millions of times. You can overcome the manipulation through fear. That's true.
Yeah, because fear doesn't work to manipulate you into picking a side.
Exactly.
Or, you're not ruled by fear.
And most of the other energies like anger, frustration, jealousy, all those, ultimately you can filter them down to a fear, right? I'm afraid people are going to, I'm afraid that they're not listening to me. I'm afraid that I won't be accepted. I'm afraid that I'm not worthy. It's all these type of fears at the end of it. So yeah, by doing that work, you can walk this planet and the minefield of negativity pretty well. You can avoid most bombs. Not all of them, but then if you hit one, you get up, you brush yourself off. And
oops, fell for that.
Oops, fell for that one,
Try not to let that happen again.
Right. Yeah. So that is true, but sometimes people fall into the idea that it just involves positive thinking and love. And when people come to that, I say, no, that's not going to work for you. It's not going to work for you. Imagine this is negativity, it's real. It's not theoretical. So if you knew of a spouse that is being physically beat up by the other spouse, would you tell them, just stay positive, love them lots, and they're going to stop? No, you wouldn't.
If you give them enough hugs, they'll probably stop beating you.
You wouldn't tell that
just need to love them
You
better.
wouldn't say that.
In fact, that's exactly what you'd be advised to do by, if you're given that advice, don't trust them, because I mean it's like that's what Epstein would say, isn't it? Like
exactly. What about this other advice? Oh no, you stay in that marriage because you know what? The more you hurt, the better person you'll become. You're going to learn the lessons you came here to learn on the planet. What about that one?
The most valuable lessons are the most difficult.
I mean, I've actually you do get stronger through suffering potentially if you if you use that catalyst the right way.
I have a kitten, and I used to beat that kitten every single morning. And you know what? It didn't turn into the best kitten. It turned into a terrible cat. It even ran away.
That's not true. Actually.
Is now that a better cat just because I beat it every day and I made its life miserable and terrible? And through suffering, I taught that kitten how to be a good cat.
That's another.
I didn't actually harm any animals.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't.
So so that's another.
Is that why you have a dog instead?
Right.
Yes, I did. Sorry, dog. No, I didn't. I don't beat any animals.
So you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't beat up your kitten or your dog or your kid to make them a better person. You wouldn't do that.
Although there's
because
a church,
there's
a church that's something about a cane, right?
Yeah, because that's not true. You intuitively know that it's not true. If you beat up a plant left and right and you don't give it water and you put it in the cold or whatever, that plant is not going to do well. So what does suffering and pain do to people? It disables them and it makes them less of who they really are. That's all it does. It doesn't teach them to become compassionate and good. Take them in that way.
It may be true that you overcame things. That's probably
you
true.
You figured out how to get out of the pain.
But that doesn't mean that you became stronger because of that.
No.
But while you were dealing with that, you were disabled.
Yes.
And the purpose was that disability and the distraction.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. And yes, we came in already that way, which was
compassionate,
good,
full of inspiration and
love,
adventure,
and affection,
and exploration, right?
Yeah, I mean that's why children are like that.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes you have to tell them not to pinch the kitten on the tail or whatever.
Right. But you don't beat them up.
You don't
And-
beat them up with it,
No.
and that's the guidance. It's like these are the things that's painful for the kitty, and you don't know that.
Exactly. And most children, will.
As soon as you explain it, they're like,
oh no, they hurt the kitten. I didn't know that. And we're talking about 1-year-olds,
Ah,
yeah.
so maybe what I've heard some people say is that it's not positivity or negativity per se. What you want is neutrality. And
Neutral is very. If you're a light worker and you're light being, I don't think you can be neutral. I think you're here to create an amazing planet that's beautiful and light.
I think what they mean is more that you're observing things without, because there's this toxic positivity that there can be with where people are just
Right.
refusing to look at the shadow, right? They're refusing to
well,
look
the
at
toxic
the
positivity.
negativity.
The toxic positivity is the thing you just described, which is
Yes.
suffering is good for me. That's
Exactly.
toxic
Yeah.
positivity.
That's
That's making
positivity.
something positive that isn't positive.
Right.
Suffering is not positive.
In any way or
Okay.
form.
So
Hey.
you
Yes,
see,
you need. What about shadow work then? How do you not? Have you heard of that?
What?
shadow work.
Yeah, that is another little nugget to trap light workers,
Really?
right? Yeah.
Well,
Because
consider it.
yeah,
Consider
so
it for a
let's
moment.
look up at a real shadow. Real shadow, for example. I don't know if you're married or not. Are you married?
No.
Okay. Do you have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Or boyfriend? Okay. So let's say your girlfriend or boyfriend brings you breakfast in the morning, right? And you're working on your shadow self, so you have to be evil to them so that you can integrate this shadow. And you're like, oh, I wish she hadn't woken me up so early. So you go out of bed and beat her up, right? So you're integrating your shadow. So this is like not theoretical. It's not about negative thoughts and whatever that are coming into your head. It's about real life experiences. And for people to say, oh, you have to admit and accept, and there's the way that I see it is you're feeling a negative thought, or you're feeling or you have done a negative thing in the past. There's an energy inside of you that we might call guilt, because if you're not a light worker, you wouldn't even feel that. You wouldn't even remember that you did it, right? And or evil thoughts or evil intents or whatever, so you feel it, so you allow it to exist inside of you. This is the process that I teach. You allow it to exist, you allow it to express, not by beating somebody else or by venting on someone or calling them names, but actually you allow the energy to grow bigger and bigger inside of yourself until it gets spent. It can sometimes give you information around it and stuff, and then it's gone. Eventually, if you do the process right, it's done, it's gone. And that does not have the power to control you, or even sometimes it just disappears altogether. You'd never have those type of thoughts again.
So
it's not
how do you?
integrated.
So how is this process? So you're talking about processing the negative emotions,
Right, and thoughts
that you've got within. How would you say you process it?
Yeah, that's what I was explaining to you. I was giving you an example of
That is
allowing.
the
Yeah,
But that's what I call shadow work. To me, shadow work isn't acting negative to people. It's investigating, looking within yourself at why you've what.
right.
It's
so here's
looking
the thing.
within at the negativity and trying to transmute it into positivity.
Yeah, so that doesn't work. That won't work.
negative isn't positive.
Right. You can never transmute a negative energy into positive. It won't work.
Doesn't humor do that?
GMO?
Humor.
Humor.
Humor, no,
No,
it's
it
ridicule.
doesn't. No,
But it's
it
kind
doesn't.
Well,
It doesn't. No.
I suppose we're seeing things differently. And
Yeah, so here's the
for
thing.
now,
Like what you were saying is you look and see why. My process, you don't have to know why. That's just mental masturbation, right? And also psychology, which I can tell you a lot of my students and clients have been psychologists because they couldn't get there, right? They couldn't get rid of their traumas or whatever. It's because they kept going back and feeding them. So yeah, it's interesting and nice sometimes to find out where the trauma came from or the negativity came from. That's interesting, but that's all it is. It's not going to help you to go over it again. And if you it's like energy bundles. in your field, right? So you allow that energy to finally disentangle itself and express and go back to source.
What about art? Could you let it out through art?
Well, it depends. How is that art going to make people feel when they look at it?
Well, it could be where you're doing it just personally, you're doing some art and you could let out the emotion. It's just that there's this idea of the left brain and the right brain, which is oversimplistic, but if you do art, that you're kind of exploring a side to yourself that isn't so much rational and logical, but do you see what I'm getting at? I'm not sure how to put it, but
Yeah. So let's say you have a trauma, right? Let's pretend a trauma. Maybe you had a car accident and you're traumatized, you had PTSD around it. And you go and make a painting of this trauma, right? You create this painting of this trauma. Do you see that creating that painting of the trauma of the car accident is going to help you? And then what do you do with the painting? I mean, if you went out and you burnt it ceremonially, maybe it might help, but
it's like transferring the energy to the object and then expiring the object in some way. So in a sense, if you've done it in a sort of a ceremonial fashion, you could basically do that. But I mean, that's a pretty long drawn out process when all you really need to do is examine the energy and allow it to express.
Yeah.
How do you allow it to express?
So for example, let's see, tell me right now if there's something that you want to, process. Right now. Yeah. Because it's
a fear
trying,
of being seen, maybe, or
any type of energy that might be stuck there.
Fear of
talk about
being
politics,
judged, I suppose.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's a really good one. So you just close your eyes and you scan and say, okay, the fear of being judged, where is it in my field? Is it in my physical body? Is it in my mind? Where is it? And then put your hand on it. Right. Okay. So now that you've detected
I don't know if that's where it is, but that's where I went.
Right now.
Yeah, okay. It can move.
It will move, maybe.
Yeah. So now that you found it, just say, okay, fear of being judged, you're welcome here. I accept you completely.
You're being judged, not welcome here. I accept you being completely.
You are welcome here.
You're welcome here.
Yes, you're welcome
here. You're welcome here too.
Thank you for doing your job.
Thank you for doing your job.
Yeah. So
what you do is you accept it with love. If you love your negativity, it's no.
No. We haven't even finished yet. That's a big jump. Okay.
You haven't finished. Start over.
Okay.
Beginning.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, find where judgment is in your body, physically, and put your hand on it.
Yeah. So now you say, you're welcome here.
You're welcome.
You've done it. Yeah.
You've done
now
it.
Allow it. And now you can grow. Allow it to grow.
Get even bigger.
Let's see how big you can get. Can it be as big as your body, as big as the room, as big as the planet?
Well, as big as the room, huh?
Okay.
Okay.
Can it get bigger?
Several miles big.
Yeah. Okay.
That's quite large.
That's really
a lot of judgment. Good job.
Yeah, that's good. Can it get bigger than that? Can it get as big as England?
Yes, I'm sure the whole of England.
Okay, apparently Europe now.
Perfect.
Oh, brilliant.
That's really good.
Are you encouraging me to make it bigger?
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's
it's not going to hurt you. It's good. It's expressing.
The galaxy.
Let's see if we can make it as big as the world.
No, I've already gone to the galaxy, so.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Exponential display.
Yes. Where is it?
It's kind of gone. I mean, it's kind of everywhere, but it's kind of gone, right?
Right. So that is really good process because it actually went. You can now, in this area, you can pull in your source energy, like love, joy, God, whatever you call it, and fill up that area where it was.
Infuse the area where it
was.
Infuse
it
with your
source energy, whatever that you might call that. Just pull it in, imagine it, you can visualize it going like a beam of light going into that area and just filling it all up.
Okay, well, it feels better.
Yeah, if you take a few breaths and you're done.
The good thing about this is that other people could potentially do the same thing.
Yeah, there's millions
Seems
of
like
people
millions
around.
have.
Millions of people around the planet are doing exactly
That
the
is the
same
fear
thing.
processing
It
exercise.
is. That's the fear processing exercise. And it works.
And it
This
works.
one's definitely new to me.
Well, I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm glad you're sharing it.
And I'm glad that you were open for it.
And I'm glad you were open for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So we were talking about how they do divide and conquer. Would you like to go more into, I mean, this is negative, I suppose, but we could go into how the media do it, or even say the cabal or the occult.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
they,
yes.
we could even go to aliens if you want.
Oh, definitely. Okay, let's hear, honey.
What?
Tell me some good stories.
About what?
Divide and conquer and, aliens.
So here's the thing. We know it's happening, right? You know it's happening. We know it's happening. And your listeners know it's happening. That's why they're listening to your podcast, right?
Otherwise, they probably wouldn't even tune in.
They know that divide and conquer is what's happening on the planet. So what we need to address, in my opinion, would be more interesting to address would be how do we navigate a world where this is happening without falling into it?
Right, because we understand there are quite a few who like divide and conquer. That's their favorite game.
Yeah.
It's
it
a
is.
little bit difficult to play different game with someone who wants to play divide and conquer. So that's
Right.
a bit of the crux. How do we coexist in a moment with a great deal of number of people who want to divide and conquer each other?
I get the
Mhm.
appeal of definitely. I mean, I used to play strategy games for a long time. I'm not sure if that. It's kind of like a simulation of it.
What?
A simulation of it,
Of what?
strategy game.
Oh, strategy games, yes.
But then I
Absolutely.
was, I was arguing people a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, argument's fun. Call it debate.
There is this thrill where you might be able to win, and I get it. It's a trap, but I do understand. It's not. If we were to judge people for doing it, I mean, we understand. We all
Okay,
understand.
so
We're human.
let's move away from judgment. Just like we said earlier. Okay, we talked about that earlier. You said it yourself. So let's move away from judgment and let's call it purple and blue, or green and yellow. Okay, so they're just they're in a different game. They're in a chess game, whether 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional, 5-dimensional, they're in the chess game. You want to climb mountains. That's a different game. It's
really not
game.
compatible with chess.
No.
It's hard to keep your chess pieces on the board on the top of the mountain with all that gear, and you can't move the pieces very good with your gloves on.
And plus the other person,
and anyways, the other guy who's playing, he's way at the end of the rope.
Right?
He can't come back here and do that because he's trying to climb.
Exactly.
It's just disrupting his whole entire idea of climbing a mountain.
Right.
Or we could just be hang gliding or flying.
Sure, if you're hang gliding,
hang gliding
it's
in
even
chess,
harder to play chess.
Really tough. It's really tough to play chess while you're
You got to figure out how to flip your thing upside
it's a
down.
bit of a challenge, yeah.
So maybe you could get magnetic pieces, or you could have an
I was
app.
thinking that.
Yeah, you could have an audio version.
You could figure it out. I'm sure of it. You could figure it out how to play chess while you're hang gliding. But do you want to?
Do you want to?
If you want to do it that much, like
just stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite fun. And if you want to play chess instead,
that's fine. It's a different game. Just a different game. But if you're hang gliding, you want to enjoy the wind and exactly, the lift and the views, and maybe record it and share it on your YouTube or whatever. This is a different game. Is one better than the other? Is chess better than hang gliding? No, it isn't.
Well, it is if you're a chess fan. Chess is much better.
But if you're a hang glider, chess is not better, and vice versa. But so that's okay.
Another thing is also all these beautiful views. There's nature and all of that. And when we're in this fight and flight sort of, when we're in that negativity, we're missing what we could see if we took a step back.
Absolutely.
That's the purpose of
Mhm.
separation.
Yeah, that's the purpose of separation.
And it's not an accident, but it is a choice, right? That was the choice to have separation.
Mhm.
Separate me
Yeah.
from my bigger self, make me
Yeah.
smaller,
Yeah.
make me
Yeah, and that's a good point because this game of separation is not being done to us. It was never imposed on us. We decided as a human collective to have this experience. And we're all players in it to the degree that we agree to them.
and you
Yeah.
agree to
So
here and
yeah.
through the process and know full well what's happening and how it works here and what's going to
But
happen.
I have met people who are not in any way or form engaging with the game of separation. They're not.
And that's great. Although that's a
So,
judgment.
and we can.
But yeah.
Well, it's great for
it's-
you, but that's not judgment. That's
it's
just
not.
choice.
It's
That's what I
choice.
chose.
Yeah.
I chose this.
Okay, so there's a difference between judgment and street smarts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So you go into New York and you go into a city area. Do you walk there at night by yourself? No, because
Even if you're exuding all love.
oh, even if you're exuding love and accept everybody and we're all one, you don't go there because it's street smarts not to. Right?
Well, maybe for
It's not-
Jesus, you can put it off.
Yeah, are you
Jesus?
Jesus? Are you omnipotent?
How
No.
did it end for?
But if someone
Okay.
was at that level of
Omnipotent? They
just
wouldn't
that
be
high
in the game.
frequency, maybe just they
They probably wouldn't incarnate here.
They wouldn't go there.
Why would they come here?
well
Why
there
would they
is
come-
well there is the whole star seed and indigo child thing.
Right. So if you want to change games, there's that narrative. We want to
Yes.
change games from separation, divide and conquer, power over others into a new paradigm. You've heard that before, right?
Right.
Oh yes,
And
that's what happened. That's what's happening now.
Exactly.
Right. So in the middle of that, how do you bring that about without waking everybody up too far so that they lose track of the entire game?
Right.
You want to change the game in the game, not change the game out of the game.
Right.
If you change the game out of the game, you
It's
ruin the
over.
game. It's like, do you play video games where you have the cheat codes for everything?
Are
How
they
much longer
yours?
do you play after you can have unlimited lives, unlimited
All the
bullets,
cheat codes.
unlimited
Yeah.
everything? It's kind of loses its luster after a very short time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of fun to go around omnipotent for, I don't know, half an hour, but then you go back to hard version where you have no shields and,
Yeah.
kind of like sway back and forth, right? Same
And that's Earth then.
Mhm.
right.
This is a
everything.
challenge, a server where we go to
Mhm.
Have an experience.
An
Yeah.
individual will say, well, I'm high enough frequency that I don't need to think about going into a low frequency area because I'm so high frequency, man, and it's not going to happen. I mean, if you're a yogi and you've been working on it for 50 years, 60 years, yeah, sure, maybe you can go through those areas and nobody's going to touch you or even see you. That's true. But the rest of us who haven't done that deep work are not in that situation. And if there's a tiny little spark of fear, it's going to grab you because that's their game and that's their turf.
They're good
Right.
at that.
They're really good at that. That's their turf. I've heard and I've seen people going through red lights because, oh, no, it's my world. I'm creating it moment to moment. So I can go through red lights and not get smashed into. Boom, maybe a couple of times, but you're going to get smashed into because the collective agreement is that if
We
there's
stop
a
at
red
reds.
light, you stop at red and
If
you
you
go on
don't,
green. That's
There's
our
a good
collective
chance you
agreement.
might crash.
That's
So
a
you're not-
selfish perspective as well, because it's just like I'm going to use the laws of reality for my purpose, and everyone else.
Must
Well,
agree to my reality. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
That's not really necessarily.
Yeah.
There's a much more harmonious way to apply it, really.
Yeah. So in our co-created reality, which is our co-creation, you're not the only creator here on this planet.
Hmm.
So in our co-created reality, city areas in big cities are violent locations where people go there to play low frequency games of victim aggressor. Okay. So as a co-creator, and you don't want to have that victim aggressor experience, as a co-creator, stay out of there. Because that's a chess game that involves robbery and shooting and stuff like that.
So, yeah, although this reminds me of something else, which is, so are you aware of the Rat Paradise experiments?
No. I
Rat
haven't
Paradise.
seen-
I think I vaguely
haven't?
recall something.
So
about
they
What is it
did
about?
experiments
Rat.
on rats where they give them everything they need. It's this wonderful, everything, all the places to run around,
Rat
and
eat.
everything. Yeah, but then what they do is they start giving them free drugs.
Yeah.
And
I-
just
yeah.
everything as much as they want, abundance completely. And what starts to happen is the male ones start to get more feminine, and you get more homosexuality there. Don't worry, I'm not going in a conservative direction with this per se. I'm just noting what the
Recording
experiment
facts
is.
is
And
for you.
the feminine ones, the female ones get more masculine and dominant, and you get this tendency for it's a lot less harmonious actually that way. And I wonder if perhaps cities are designed to actually bring out negativity in us.
Okay,
And-
so let's go back to the victim aggressor
Okay,
stuff we
yeah.
were talking about earlier, because now cities and people who design cities are doing negative stuff to you, which is a victim viewpoint. Nobody's doing anything negative to you that you don't agree with. Okay, you're not a rat.
And you're not
That's
a rat.
true.
Right?
That's true.
And also the experiment that I heard about had completely different results, which was about the drugs that eventually they stopped taking the drugs, but the rats that were in a really harsh environment would take them continuously. So again, experimentations and stuff, they can be interpreted and, you know.
Yeah,
the
I'm
results-
misremembering it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that bias that comes,
The
right?
bias,
The
yeah.
bias that comes to confirm what
Yes.
we think, and
The
helps
information bias, data
solidify
bias.
our reality. Those are the datas that we allow, and that's kind of how we operate.
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment, I'm telling people get out of the city, and it's an
Yeah.
advice that is not mine originally, but it has come through since last October when I first received it, and it's like you can find it as a Hopi prophecies or other places. Just get out of the city. Why? Because during this time period, it's going to be harsh for a human person with a human body to live in a city. Going to be really harsh. So do you want to be in a harsh environment, or do you want to listen to get out of the city? That's up to you.
It's
really
hard
up to you.
to consider
It's your-
people. There are people who live there, right? And you know, I don't live in the city anymore, but I know people who do,
Me too.
and that's hard, isn't it?
It is harsh for them, and that's by your self-choice to live in a city during this time period, and there's no judgment there. But if you can and you can avoid cities, do. That's the advice, right?
I mean, there is this argument I came across by Mark Passio. He talks about the occult and various other things, and he said that he thought it was cowardice to leave the city when you could, as a light worker, do more good in an area like that.
Martyr energy, any.
That's called the martyr savior.
Yes, that's called the martyr savior.
There's
If you're-
victim aggressor. There's martyr savior.
Right. The
That's
martyr energy is
savior.
extremely violent. Once you have a martyr, you have open road to violence, and you can do anything because you have a martyr, right? So it's like, yeah, don't martyr yourself. Don't martyr your physical body. Why would you put your physical body through that, right? It's like, don't do that. Is it a coward? You can call people anything you want that move out of that type of situation. I'm going to tell you a story, a personal story. Before the coup in Chile, 1973, I was 6 years old before it happened. And I could see it happening. I could see it coming. And I told my parents, we have to get out of Chile. We have to leave this place. It's going to get really nasty here, and it's not going to be good. And my parents said, that's cowardice. No, we're going to stay with our people, and we're going to defend our people, and we're going to lead our people and make sure that this nastiness, first of all, doesn't happen. And if it does happen, we're going to fight for our people and bring freedom back. Guess what happened? They got in prison, tortured and broken. Both my parents were broken. And then they got released, and it's called a reign of terror, because you in prison, you torture, you kill a few terrible ways inside the prison so the other ones can see. And then when they break, they're broken, you release them into the population, and the population sees the result and goes, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen. I will do whatever they tell me to do. Okay. Now, did they, by being light workers and high frequency and wanting to defend their people, did they make a difference? No, it was the opposite. everybody who saw them after they came out of those concentration camps were traumatized.
And they were
Traumatized.
definitely not in the spirit to fight more. It was
No,
the
they
opposite
couldn't.
effect.
Then they had to leave, right? It was like, this is not right. It wasn't the right decision, right? So I took so that's just one example.
Right.
Okay. Now cities, you can stay there, or you can keep your frequency high and support your physical body and support the community that you move into out of the cities, and continue and create new systems of governance with other people of like mind, right? Now in the
Yeah,
cities, you
I
have
see where
the 5G and other technologies being used. If you research something called a concentration camp and how cities and high density neighborhoods have been designed around concentration camps, you'll know why it's done, okay? Because it's easy to use technology on a high populated areas,
Densely populated.
densely populated. And what's the result? What kind of things happen to these people? They're going to high stress, fear, and all these things. Something is feeding of that, and it's a creation of a low frequency paradigm, right?
so
Reality.
it's sort of vampiric almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
If left alone, what would happen? Everyone would, I mean, of course, the story is it'd be dystopia, right? That's the narrative that we've been programmed with.
by millions of decades of movies, right?
When the government is gone, we get dystopia.
Yeah.
We get Mad Max.
Yes. And they did it here, and it was so orchestrated and dramatized. It's like orchestrated in Seattle.
Yeah, they gave some
Right.
reality versions of it. We had
Yeah.
Chop in Seattle.
Yeah,
Right?
we had Chop in Seattle.
And what happened in Seattle was I
It's
think it was a rap
Totally
star became a
orchestrated.
warlord, and the
Yes.
Chop took it over from the fairies.
It's interesting because
was-
they're trying to, the whole narrative is that these are just naturally happening. But for those who are clued in, they can see that, bricks are being planted
Yes.
and all things like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so far from naturally happened.
It's so far.
It's orchestrated.
I mean,
Right.
it's easy to get caught up in the narrative of like, okay, but this ideology is bad and they're doing it because like that. And I've been in that. I've had that kind of perspective where,
Mm-hmm.
but then the other side, so to speak, will just see other people as instigating it. And you get the big disagreement about some people think that it was secretly white nationalists who were planting the bricks, and other people think it was George Soros. And maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is that those who benefit off people divide and conquer are involved in that's occurring. It doesn't really. There's no side politically that's good or bad. It's more that all of the sides are controlled in some sense.
Exactly. There's sides. That's
There's
it. You got
sides.
it. There
That's
are
it.
sides.
That's it.
In a
Yes.
game like
That's just
football,
sides.
there's sides.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
because we all know which team is the best team.
Nottingham Forest, man.
Yeah, Nottingham Forest.
And Brian Clough.
Yeah, that's the ones. The other ones are no good.
Well, at least in the UK, we don't have football hooligan issues as much as we used to. From what I've heard, in the 60s, it used to be worse.
And we have no pollution right now, less pollution. We have no hooliganism. We have...
The bars are half closed.
Yeah, so, we have a lot of good stuff from this thing.
I suppose so.
I know it's a really tough thing to be like upset about.
I know.
That's looking...
the positive aspects.
That's like the was it Jocko Willis thing was like good, right?
Good.
Because you can find good things and negative things. It doesn't mean you ignore the negative, but you can definitely.
I noticed something really fabulously amazing to me when I watched that video. What I heard was,
the Jocko Williams.
Yeah, I heard.
I
heard something bad happened to you. Good. Now you can figure your way out of it. You can figure out a solution. This is what I heard. And then what I heard, somebody else interpreted. That person said, "You learn from bad things. Bad things are good." And I thought, Jocko never said that. He did not say
No,
that.
no, he wouldn't
He
say
didn't
that at
say-
all.
No, he didn't say that you're going to learn from your mistakes or you're going to learn from negative stuff. He never said that. And it's like the other things I've watched about Jacko, he never says that. He says you're going to figure it out. You're going to you can become more street smart because you're going to figure solutions.
It's optimism, essentially. It's and looking for a way in which it's just turning it. So you look at things in a different angle.
Yeah, you find solutions for them. You don't become defeated.
You're not
right?
defeated.
You're not a victim.
You're not a victim.
You find
whatever
solutions.
the hell happens.
Doesn't matter.
Good, fine. Now figure it out.
Figure it out, man.
Don't stop. Don't give up. Figure it out. It's not the same as go find shit to have to figure it out. That doesn't mean go find stuff to get in a big pile of. It means if it happens, you ain't giving up. You're gonna figure it out.
The only thing
that's not gonna stop you. But that doesn't mean you go looking for money. Oh, excuse me.
No, I was interrupting. So. The only thing with the language is that he did say that you can get up and go on the attack.
That's the part that is very tempting.
He's a warrior.
Yes, he's a warrior. And I would say, like, before 2011, when we made this decision to split the planet.
And that was an old video, too.
Yeah, I would have been teaching that, too. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, now let's go beat them up, man. But, yeah, he's a warrior, and he's teaching people. Most of his customers, I think, are fighters, you know. So, yeah, you get up and you beat them up, right? So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I wouldn't teach that at all. It's like I wouldn't tell people to get up and go attack others because it's versus I'm like the us versus them and all that type of stuff. That time period is over on the planet. We don't want that.
True. So you alluded to the splitting timelines thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
It's quite interesting. So do you think we're definitely going to get the splitting timelines onto different the fourth density positive and fourth density negative? Is that what you think is happening?
Yes, in a way. Interesting language, because this is not an external event and it's not an internal event that's going to happen out there. It is something that we all have to do in ourselves. So when people say, how's the paradigm happening?
How's the split coming along?
How is the split coming along? I say, so you tell me, how's your split coming along? How much are you indulging in negativity these days? Are you giving it up? You know, did you go cold turkey on it? You know, how are you doing with the drama and all the negative stuff? So now you know how the split's happening.
How much us versus them are you in?
You are the one who embodies the new paradigm, and by embodying the new paradigm, you make it real. You make it happen. You make it happen on the planet.
Kind of think of it like an ayahuasca trip.
I unfortunately haven't had one yet.
Well, that's not. I haven't either. But we can imagine. How about an acid trip or mushrooms? Anything?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay.
I haven't had any, but I can picture.
You can imagine a dream. Let's say a dream then. Have you had
that can be pretty trippy, yeah.
Have you had a lucid dream or a aware dream?
I often have either lucid or semi-lucid dreams.
Perfect.
Okay, so you're aware in that reality experience, what you focus on, what you pay your attention on is what brings about. And as you're going along, things may appear and your response to them creates their intensity. Right?
True. Though my problem with those dreams is I often try to control it too much.
And then you wake up.
Right? Not so, well, sometimes it's more like you control it too much, and then unexpected things just come in when you're doing that.
Uh-huh.
I suppose,
and then how you do that?
How do I, sorry?
Respond to those things.
How do you respond to those things?
In your dream.
Depends on the dream, I suppose.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Right. So if your response to the dream is to, let's say, for example, go fight it, you're going to have a lot of fight. Let's say your response to the dream is to avoid it, run away from it, get away and turn in a different direction and maybe look at sunset or sunrise or there's a portal over there and you go through it and you come out in Lemuria or something.
Oh, of course you can always do that. Last night I had a dream where these things kept coming up and I kept trying to resolve it. And I did, except for something else came along every time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So in that,
the message
that
I got from that was kind of that if you keep trying to fix it, wouldn't you just, you could shape it like it's like in Inception. You could decide that suddenly, like you go to border, you're in the mirror, yeah, suddenly, yeah.
yeah, you can just say, okay, done.
Done. I'm done.
Suddenly you're meditating with Thoth or something,
Yeah. That could be more entertaining than processing this little thing again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
That reminds me of your 80-20 rule.
Yeah, 80-20 rule. So with the fear processing exercise, I tell people 80% you enjoy your life and 20%
Do that stuff.
you process and you learn and you do your growth life.
But what I'm doing at the moment is I'm doing something that I enjoy that's also a sort of work that's growth. So it's kind of both. Because we're doing this course, you also.
That's very nice, man.
Yeah, when I say work, I mean working yourself as in process your traumas and that type of thing. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. The 80% can be your job, right? That you really enjoy and other things that you enjoy in life. But the 20% of work I'm talking about is not working in a 9 to 5 or whatever. So I'm talking about processing your traumas,
trauma work,
I could probably do more than what I'm doing then. I do meditate every day, but I could definitely meditate for longer.
Yeah.
How much do you meditate a day?
How much do you meditate a day?
Well, it depends on the day.
So what would you say
I think the recommended dosage is 20 minutes a day, twice a day. Is that what the recommended dosage was?
No, I would recommend for people to meditate at least an hour a day.
An hour a day?
Yeah.
That's right, it went up.
Yeah.
Because this is a particular time.
Minimum 20 minutes, I would say.
20 minutes. And your process of meditation, it may look like your image of a yogi sitting there with crossed legs.
Or you could be watching a sunset.
Another thing. Yeah. It may be another way. Essentially, the process is to expand your awareness.
Yeah, right? And I would say the way that I tell people their aim would be to have an altered state that is more positive, right, and high frequency altered state than they usually have during the day. So that would be their goal. So to give your soul, the human soul, the majority of humans on the planet, their soul being is extremely high frequency. So basically you allow that expression of yourself to happen at least once a day, right?
We have a lot of meditations on your website that you could join in that go anywhere from 5 minutes up to an hour. Yeah. A guided exercise all the way down to a 5-minute relaxation exercise. And they're meditations, and they move you into an altered state and a high frequency state.
Altered state,
and that is the key, right?
And what site is this?
It's ineliabenz.com.
Oh, because you have a couple of others from what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the ineliabenz.com is my main website. That's the main one.
And Guild of Gaia.
No, that's not mine.
Oh, right.
Actually.
We
participated in that
and we
project.
Are in and originate some of the content and work with other guild members who are brides and grooms of Gaia, I might add, who've decided to experience the reality on the planet differently than the way that maybe most of us have been taught, which was to the planet is here for us to have as a source of endless resource
or entertainment
to entertain us. To hey, how about we connect with Gaia at a level of marriage, like for example, be a bride or be a groom of Gaia, and we are part and parcel of making a decision. What would we like to do, Gaia, with this part of the woods or this part of the beach, or should I move here? Where do we want to live? So we incorporate Gaia in the decision-making process at the level of bride or groom, because Gaia isn't necessarily masculine or feminine. If you're a boy and you identify as a boy and you would be interested in a bride, Gaia would be the bride, you would be the groom, right? And in any way you want to imagine it. But it's a different way of imagining and existing on the planet than maybe has been used in the past. So it's an example of a new paradigm reality that we would create together. It's an example.
A new way of governance,
A
right?
completely new way of governance, because you're
Yeah.
co-creating your reality with Gaia and others who are co-creating together with Gaia.
Yeah.
So,
If you choose, you don't have to have others.
yeah, you don't have to, because it's between you and Gaia.
Exactly, yeah.
And then another website you have is Walk With Me Now.
Yeah. Walkwithmenow.com is a platform where we hang out and people can ask us questions, but also my materials studied, the study groups spontaneously happen.
Telegram groups.
Some Telegram groups, really high frequency stuff, man. It's like, if you want to have deep conversations about something, yeah, Walk With Me Now is the place.
And you read your books.
Yeah.
New book.
Yeah, I'm a writer and I write novels, and the novels are empowerment tools, but you know, people don't have to know that or care about it. The novels are pretty cool, and I do the first draft. I release it each chapter in the first draft of the new books that come out.
Some of the more recent ones are Interview with an Angel, Interview with a Psychic Assassin, Interview with an Alien, and the one that's being written right now, actually co-written, in a sense not co-written.
No, it's not co-written.
Each week
I
a
write
new
chapter.
a new chapter is written and shared on Walk With You Now, and it's The Return, the Earth Files.
Yeah. So it's a series of books called The Return.
Yeah.
And the first one is called
The first
The
one's
Return.
written, it's already out.
So already out. Basically talking about the origin of the human species or the whole ET connection and
The
everything
ET connection
else.
to the origin of humans, human bodies, and
Yeah.
Earth, and Anunnakis, and
also
Ruminis,
the
and
whole light dark paradigm
light dark
invention,
paradigm. Yeah.
exercise, and also the stepping out of the light dark paradigm exercise.
Is this the thing where there was this? I read a little bit of. I think I might have looked at one of the stories where there's this child who, for some reason, was the heir to some
The
abilities.
Return, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, well,
The
"Why
what?
is this? How is this possible?"
The child is the heir to the throne or something. The Return.
Oh, The Return?
That's a story. I think you might recognize some elements of the story in quite a few religions.
Oh yeah, like Christianity, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a few
The
religions.
Return. Yeah, most religions have a return.
Most religions have that, where the Messiah of some form comes back.
So, what do you know about the Anunnaki? So they've got the planet Nibiru, right? Am I remembering correctly? Oh, that's something else.
That's something else completely. So there has been a lot of myths and legends and knowings expressed on Earth about the Anunnaki. And you can, oh my gosh, I mean, there's so many stories. You take your pick. You know, they're humanoid, mammals, they're reptilian. You know, take your pick. You know, you're going to choose. What I've heard, what I've learned about the Anunnakis is different. They're humanoid in shape and form. They're mammals. They are a lot larger than us. They have very long skulls. They're very specifically interred in physicality. They do not have souls, and that's not a bad thing because your cats and dogs don't have souls. They have many. Their planets are fine. They're doing just
I'm
great.
asking a question. So if they don't have souls, are they more directly tools of the universe or something?
They're not necessarily direct tools of the universe, but they are different to humans because humans have two beings coexisting as one. So you have your physical body, or physical body elemental as a human, and then you have your other body, which is a very subtle body, which we call a soul. So it's two different beings coming together to have an experience. And actually, the infusion of physical bodies into souls is not that, like, it's quite recent. There's legends in this area among the Native American people that when the gods came to offer people souls, so now they can have souls, one tribe said no, we don't want it, and walked away, and they still don't have them. And those people are nowadays known as the Sasquatch.
Sasquatch tribes said, "No way, we're out of here."
Yeah, we don't want souls. So they didn't
Wow.
get in line. No,
Sure
the
are.
other
I'm not
tribes
sure
said, yeah.
how to make sense
So
of
it's a
that.
legend, right?
Oh, it's a legend, yeah.
Well, it's a historical
Well, it's a
legend.
historical.
You know, it's like Native
remembrance in a way.
Americans teach the history verbally. They don't write it down. It's through stories, right? And the gods came in from the sky,
Gods came from the sky,
right?
to give
And
souls to
the humans,
people.
to the people.
And the Sasquatch tribe said,
No.
"No, thank you," and ran away and hid.
Yeah, they hid. They didn't want them. They thought it was like a possession. But for the rest of us, you know, we decided, yes, we want those souls. And all over the world, people said yes to souls, and now they wear clothes, and they're disconnected from the environment, and you know, they do all these things while the Sasquatch run around here, and they don't need clothes, and they live in harmony with the environment.
That's interesting. Although, as we discussed, there's a sort of, we make the sacrifice of coming here with certain limitations so we can have a challenge and learn certain things, right?
No, you didn't make a sacrifice, first of all.
But it's actually a
You didn't
blessing,
come-
right?
How can
Well,
you possibly
you're kind of
learn?
jumping up and down and saying,
Yeah.
How can you possibly learn anything? You're a divine eternal being. You are oneness. You're in the entire existence of the universe and everything else. How can you possibly learn anything? No, you came here to have an experience of separation and singularity. It's an experience. It's like when you go on holiday to Spain, you go there to learn. No, you go there to enjoy the sun, right? And the
True, but
food.
I hear though that the people that souls go up in density.
Right. Because, like we said before, there's a game you're playing to make
Yeah.
it interesting. Because
Right.
otherwise, how would a divine eternal find this interesting, right?
You
And
have
that's
to
one of the
forget who
problems
you
with
are.
expanding your awareness to too great at the level. The game becomes very uninteresting. It's
Very
irrelevant,
uninteresting.
and it doesn't mean anything, right? So in order to make it engaging, it needs to have
Interesting
levels. It needs to
and
have
experience.
withdrawal. It needs
You
to
need
have
those limitations.
forgetting and memory losses and all these things that makes it doable.
Interesting.
Otherwise, you wouldn't bother. It
Right.
wouldn't be a good game. So of course, there's levels you have to work your way through. Otherwise,
Yeah. So
I mean, what video
you
game
play
doesn't have
computer
levels?
you have computer game. You play computer. What computer games do you play?
I don't play them so much anymore because I'm doing the course and I know what I want to do now, and it's
Yeah.
the podcast. But I was playing strategy games generally, like Stellaris is an example of one I liked.
Okay. So within that game, you know when you log into that game that it has a specific aim, a goal, and limitations. You
Yeah.
can't, right? It's like you don't have a body and walk around that's made of, you know, Gaia material. It's a digital creation,
Digital body.
right? If you
Yeah.
have some, right? So
Well, you don't really have a body. You actually have an empire.
exactly, right. So
Your body is an empire.
the body's the empire, right? And then you have all these people in it, and then you have to overcome attacks and all that type of stuff. So it's like, you know, the games of that, the rules of that game and the limitations. You purposely take yourself out of, I'm a human being and I live in England, on Gaia,
whatever.
right? You take yourself out of that entire reality to limit yourself into a tiny little digital created empire.
For a period
You
of
do
time.
it for a period of time, and you immerse yourself in it, and it matters. But then suddenly, out of it, right? Came out of it because this other game that you're doing, creating a podcast, is way more interesting.
Yeah, that's how it
But
feels.
exactly, but this is just another version of the digital game. It's just a more interesting one.
More interesting one.
I suppose, but it's one when this one I'm actually.
This one really matters, though.
What I'm trying to, I suppose, this one the idea of serving others, was before it was much more competitive.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's just a
I
different
suppose
game.
it doesn't matter, but I suppose it's a preference as well.
Yeah, it is a preference. Exactly. Are you learning anything from Did you go into the other game to learn anything? No, you didn't. It was
I
very
did
entertaining.
I learned from it though.
Yeah.
I learned about strategy and how the game works and
Yeah,
everything.
exactly. You learned how to play that game. You're exactly
And
right.
we learn how to
You
play this
learned
game,
how-
the game of life.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And that becomes interesting.
And it's funny, The Sims is another interesting way to play a game because you're playing a game while in a game. And what
Yes.
what if your sim plays a computer game in the game? Then you're playing a game inside a game inside a game.
Within a game. Exactly. Yes.
You
You
got it.
And
got it.
that
Exactly.
represents the fractal nature of reality.
Yes.
Yes.
So you didn't come here to learn anything. How
Yeah.
could you possibly?
I mean,
You are eternal. And you know everything. You are everything. You came here to be entertained, and to get that entertainment and those experiences, you need to limit yourself. Because once you remove all those limitations, your game is over. You don't enjoy it anymore. It's not the same.
it's not engaging anymore.
It's not engaging anymore.
If you go to The Sims, I'm going to go to The Sims and learn how to be a person. You're a person going into The Sims.
Exactly.
You already know how to be a person, but you're wanting to be a person inside the rule set of The Sims.
Exactly.
Is
And
it
that rule set is
itself?
different.
Does
Is it
it
what?
say the idea of the universe source wants to learn to understand itself better, wants to learn it, seeks to
No.
understand
Well, that
itself
sounds like-
better?
That sounds like a
Yeah.
great line, a great
It's a
story.
great
You can
story.
follow that one. That one will keep you busy for a few millennia. I mean, on the eternal perspective, a few millennia is just a blink still, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is remarkably
But
short.
that could be a great few millennia.
So let's change tack. How did you two meet each other?
I was fishing, and then she had this wonderful video, and it struck me like, what the, one of those. That's exactly what I've been looking for my entire life. I didn't know about, getting married and stuff, but I was so resonant, the information. It went from, like you're talking about, I've looked at some raw, I looked at some of this, some of that, then swimming around in this river, and there's this thing over here and this thing over here, and there's lots of shiny lights that are so much different than the reality that I had been existing in. It's like I had woken, I had been born, been fully realized and aware, found that where I was and when I was not where and when what the heck is going on, and snapped it all off. Closed it as far and tight as you can possibly have it. As let's just sneak through this. I got to wait till I'm 40. That was what I remember thinking when I was like 3. Like, shut that down. Wait till you're 40. Then maybe when you're 40, things will be different. So I just shut off. And then around 40, it didn't work. I was already too engaged in the, I guess, games. And I had picked an interesting partner for the time. And, at 40, I wasn't ready. But a little bit after that, not much. 2 years, I think, she made this video. And that video turned the light back on, in a sense. The realization of who, what, where, what is going on, what's happening. All of that came like a flood, a realization, connection to source, an unfettered connection to source, right? That's what it felt like. So that meant there's my attention. Now my attention can go to reconnecting myself, turn myself back on, being who I was here to come to be. You know what I mean? So that's how we met. She did a video and I was fishing.
And then he came over to one of my events and said, I brought fish.
Yeah, I brought fish. She likes fish. So it's a match made in heaven.
You didn't multiply the fish though.
I got a lot of fish, yeah. I had a lot of fish. That was good.
I was trying to make a New Testament reference, but
Oh,
we know. You didn't.
I was in literal mode. She got it.
I understood it. I thought it was very funny.
It is very funny.
well, not sure what to talk about
Well,
now.
it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah,
Super
definitely.
fascinating conversation. Great fun talking to you. It's amazing. Thank you
Yeah,
for the
and
invite.
you could always invite me onto your podcast if you want.
Mhm.
You don't
We
have
haven't
to.
figured out a guest.
Yeah.
We just haven't figured out how to do guests in our podcast because
We don't have actual internet connection when we record. It's right, driving to the rice is not an interview type
Oh,
podcast,
that's a good
right?
point. that would be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So
So-
we're looking at how to either incorporate some of the lessons we're learning in the podcast school, maybe to be on other podcasts as the guests.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how we cross pollinate each other, or create another entirely different podcast that is an interview type where we're sitting down, talk for a few hours.
Mhm.
But we haven't
figured it out
settled on
yet.
it yet.
So yeah.
I suppose the logic of how to get guests, you can apply it to how to be a guest. You can just offer
I agree.
it the same way.
Mhm.
I think so. I think
That's
you're
what
100%
we might
right.
have to
That's
do,
what
yeah.
that was what we're thinking.
Mhm.
Because we enjoy our podcasts, and it is perfect, and it serves its purpose fine,
Mhm.
and it can be shared on other platforms. But when we bring in interviewing people, you're bringing in a different energy in it. It isn't as complimentary necessarily
For
as
us, right? For us.
Right.
for our purpose, right?
Or for our goals and purpose, and what we want to do on the planet.
Yeah.
Well, it's been very interesting for me as well. I mean, I'm learning from talking to you. You two seemed a little bit more clued up. You seem more clued up than me on it, but it's all a learning process.
You seem
Or
very
game
open
as well.
to challenging strongly held beliefs by allowing more data in, which
Yeah.
is the ultimate, I suppose,
Sign of enlightenment.
sign of being enlightened. As enlightened as there is, that is what you do. You open and allow more information to come in,
Mhm.
and check it for resonance.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, goodbye for now, I guess. Have a nice day.
You too.
It's great talking to you, Nick.
Bye.
Bye.